All right. This is a delight. I am here with Dr. Diane Gehart, and I'm so excited to let you tell everybody more about you. So, Diane, let's start with who are you, where are you, and what do you do?
Okay. Well, I have been a psychotherapist for 30 years. I have been a full-time professor in the area of marriage and family therapy and counseling for 25 years. I have written a lot of books, a lot of textbooks, professional books. I have one book for the general audience called Mindfulness for Chocolate Lovers, but otherwise I write a lot of really thick, boring textbooks for grad students. And yeah, so I've been training basically therapists then for over 25 years. And so yeah, that's I think me in a nutshell.
All right. Well, what was your situation before you started working with me? And when you started working with me, I was working with Bill O'Hanlon. So when you started working with me and Bill, what was your situation at that time?
Well, it was either, was it during the pandemic, right before the pandemic? It's all a big blur to me. But yeah, at that time, I have, I'm a single mom with two kids, and it was certainly around pandemic where we did a lot of our work together. And so, and I was running a very large, master's degree program in family therapy. I had 200 students, 30 faculty who were seeing like, I don't know, over 1,000 families in the greater Los Angeles area during the pandemic. And so my work hours just doubled at the university. I was just swamped and exhausted. Of course, I'm a mental health provider in the middle of the pandemic. So my clients I hadn't seen in 20 years were crawling out of the woodwork. And, plus I was homeschooling and trying to take care of, kids. And so it was really exhausting. So I was very, very exhausted. And I think what happened was during the pandemic, I was forced to teach online. And I realized how much can be learned online. I was teaching graduate students, learning family therapy, doing clinical supervision. And in my mind, it wasn't even legal to do clinical supervision online with trainees at that point in history. And I was like, there's no way this is going to work. How is this going to work? And it worked beautifully. And we were able to do a lot of things. And so that really made me realize how online learning can really be so effective. I mean, up to that point, I did do a lot of what they call a flipped classroom, where I would put all of my lectures pre-recorded online on YouTube. And I just did that because I was going to conferences and I had to cancel class. So anyway, so it was all of this kind of coming together and finally understanding. And then you all offered the online course creation course. And that's when I jumped in, and it's been incredible. I don't know what else to say.
So you've kind of hinted at this, but tell us, why did you want to offer an online course? Why did you really want to get going on this yourself?
Well, like many people during the pandemic, our lives got turned upside down. And at that time, my elderly parents were helping with the kids. And so basically, I lost all of my childcare and needed lots of help. And I was working super long hours. And I know it sounds strange. It sounds like a strange time to create an online course, doesn't it? But financially, I wasn't able to make things meet with all of the changes that were happening during the pandemic. And I needed to find a way to support myself and my kids in this new world. And that was before we thought about 10% inflation. And so I had to do something financially to keep myself afloat is really where I was at. So it was not, that was the main motivator, honest to God, was the money part, was where I said, I have to find time to make this happen. And I have the skill set and the knowledge, don't have a lot of time. And so that's why I was so thankful to find a course that really just made it easy for me to like do this. I'm like, okay, I did this. And the next step is this. Okay, I'll do that. And so that I really, you made it really easy to focus and sift through just, all of the knowledge that is necessary, and tips and tricks to make it work. So it really started from a financial piece, but once I got going, I just loved it. And I'll be totally honest here, because I've been like, I run a nationally accredited program, state approval for MFT. I have 2 different masters, a state licensing board and the national accrediting board, giving me marching orders about what I need to put in the curriculum. And over the years as an educator, because I have been an educator for so long, I've lost so much freedom in the classroom to teach the way I think things need to be taught. And so what's incredible about this, it became this forum to teach what I really believe needed to be taught and the way I wanted it to be, taught. I actually ended up, developing, I don't know if I say I developed it. I ended up articulating, I think is the better word, a whole new model of doing therapy. And it's a unifying, framework for doing psychotherapy that synthesizes 50 different theories. It had always been up in my head, but I never got it out in any organized way until I started doing these courses, because I really, and what these courses did is it is so freeing to be able to teach any way you want to, the way you think it needs to happen. And then to see the results is just so rewarding. So there was this freedom that came from it. During the pandemic, this mental health professionals, domestic violence, child abuse off the charts, suicide. There's such heavy work. Which has always been heavy work, but during the pandemic, it was even more dire and desperate. And it sounds really funny because I did work a lot of hours for these 2 years. I've been building this, my courses up a lot, 10, 12 hours, 6, 7 days a week. Like, that is not an exaggeration. I have worked a lot, but it's been soul refreshing work. I don't know how else to say it. It actually has helped prevent burnout in a weird way, because if I only did my normal work, which was just chaos. I don't know how to describe managing a graduate program, mental health program in the state of California during a pandemic. It was, what's the rule? Who changed the rule? Every 30 days, we had to wait for the governor to tell us what we were going to do. It was insane. And so this was a place where I had control. This was a place where I created something beautiful. This is a place where I created this incredible community. I don't know why the nicest people showed up for my classes. I can't even describe it. But it's like we created this beautiful little haven. And even though it has taken a lot of time, and I'm really looking forward to next year, where I'm hoping there's going to be a lot more plug and play, because I think I've recorded over 200 hours of content. And so there's going to be a lot less of that steep uphill climb in the beginning going forward. And that's why I kept doing it, because even though I was working more, it counterbalanced really what I would call soul sucking work, which is what a lot of, just dealing with bureaucratic insanity. So I think, that's why I got into it.
You talked a lot about how you were actually working more during the time that you decided to join our course and create your own online course. Your workload was even higher, significantly higher than normal. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to join your program because I'm working so hard, or I don't have the time. So Diane, talk to us about how did you said create the time. How did you do that when you were already so incredibly busy and a single mom?
Well, I made it a priority. And in some ways, life made it a priority. I wasn't going to be able to there weren't other good options. So I had to prioritize it. I actually sat down with my family. We talked about it. This is what mommy's doing, why she's doing it. This is how we all benefit from it. This is what the sacrifice is. So, and it was a very conscious decision. And I did it also kind of, and, a lot of what I did is I carved time out of the weekends is mostly where I did do it. I need my 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I just cannot get around that. And my weekday schedule didn't have a lot of wiggle room in it. So I took most of the time has come out of the weekends. And so, and we do the best we can to, find some balance. But I think it was so rewarding. And because it wasn't draining me, it was actually refueling me in many ways. It worked. And so obviously, I've been doing this pretty intense for 2.5 years, and I have 6 weeks left of my last new master class. I created a second master class here. So it is settling down. It is, and I did a lot. I've done a lot in the last 2.5 years, 2.5 years. So it is, but it is finally settling down, and I just made it a priority. For me, it was the weekends was the easiest place to get that time consistently. During the summers, because I'm a faculty member, I stopped teaching my summer courses and worked on these instead. So I did that over my breaks. I did get a call, I try to get 2-3 weeks of good vacation time in a year where I really unplug and relax. So that helps. So I think that's basically how I did it. I just had to make it a priority.
I love it. I love it. It's really that simple. When you make it a priority, you're going to find time. You're going to figure out when you can fit it in your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing, Diane, that I heard you say is that when you were creating your first course, I think, you actually like discovered and developed or honed a system that you said had been in your head, and then you were to develop it and put it in your program. And I just want you to talk a little bit more about that, because that is something that I have witnessed in myself. Every time I create a new online course, I actually discover a whole bunch of new knowledge, new techniques, and put them together in ways that I didn't actually know before. So please talk more about that.
Well, I've been a textbook author for over 20 years, which means I have studied over 50 different mental health psychotherapy theories. And in my mind, I was organizing them all, but I never had a forum to actually tell people what I was doing, except for in my fieldwork classes, which is all verbal. It's not written, where it would come out. And I would be, I'd have my philosophy in my head, what I thought I was doing. When I had explained it to my students, and this has been happening for decades, I'd be like, oh yeah, but I actually use a little bit of that theory in there. Oh yeah, I just slipped that in here, right? So I knew I had my own little Diane Gehart recipe I was using to do therapy that was totally unique. But having to put it into a course format, it was very easy actually for me to put the structure together. It's like I knew all the ingredients, but putting it together and putting it into this course and teaching folks the way I wanted to teach them, because in the mental health world, you're all supposed to choose one theory, right? And use that. And then everyone knows that no one does that anymore in the 21st century. It's not how we're working. Everyone's sort of integrative, which means nothing, which means you're totally lost. And there are a lot of, people who do really bad therapy in the name of integration. And I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. I actually have a system. And there was no way there was no easy mechanism within the academic context to describe what I do. And because what I did is I just threw out all the fancy language. I'm like, this is just how you do therapy, folks. This is it. I'm going to explain it in very simple language. You don't even need a master's degree to understand what I'm saying. So having the total freedom to do that, and you get the feedback. I like to teach all my classes live. I don't like to pre-record. And so, because I get the feedback and I see if there's something missing, I see what really sticks. And then so for me, teaching live is how I record everything. And so I got that feedback, and it was just really validating, obviously, and it helped me realize how valuable what I had to say was, and how people really are like, oh my God, this is incredible. And so it really just was a forum where I got to do that. And it's really been a great thing.
I love hearing you describe that. That's really helpful. Because we've talked about this before, but I have so much more clarity about it now than I did before. So Diane, why you had the idea of offering online courses? Why had you not done it before you started working with me?
I think some of it was feeling like I didn't know exactly how to do it. And the truth is, looking back, I probably could have, but it was too daunting. I think figuring out how to get started doing it. There is a pretty big learning curve. You got to learn how to edit your videos and put an online course together. I certainly knew how to make PowerPoints and lecture. That I had down. But it's still a huge learning curve. There is well, how am I going to market? How am I going to do that? And so I think it was just not knowing how to do it was the number one thing. And it was just, I think not knowing makes it sound even bigger and more daunting. And so then you're like, okay, so how do I make this happen? So I think having the course structure, and I think the key really was, because I've always needed, like all of us, we all need more money. And especially academics, we were in grad school till we're almost 30, and then we start working and earning and saving for retirement really late. So, I mean, the money piece had always been there. It was more of a crisis point in the pandemic, I would say. So there was a huge money crisis. But then there was also, I knew enough about how to teach online where I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do this now. So there was confidence kind of came together in terms of just knowing how to do a whole class online. Because I was not, up to that point, I'd only basically done pre-recorded like YouTube stuff. And I didn't know how to actually build relationships online. And I think the pandemic teaching us how to build relationships online, because psychotherapists are really suspicious, or we were pre-pandemic, a very suspicious field about building relationships online. And I think we were all kind of surprised pleasantly of how that can be, and then the opportunities that opens up for us and just even our clients. Most of mental health, 90% of my clients don't want to come see me anymore. They want to be online. And so it's a new world.
It's so exciting what you've created. So let's talk about results. What can you share with us about the results that you've gotten for your courses? And so, when we talk about results, we're talking about, of course, financial results, because a lot of people watching are interested in that, but also the results that your students have gotten and the fulfillment for you.
Yeah, it has really been incredible. I mean, financially, it's transformed my life for me and my kids. I am, now able to fund education for them. I am looking at early retirement. I mean, I really could. It terrifies me to say this, but I could do this instead of my, full-time salaried work as a tenured professor, which is something to think about, right? And so looking at possibilities, I have a dream of retiring in Hawaii, probably the most expensive place I could pick on the planet to retire. And I'm looking at making that happen, obviously not tomorrow. And it's work in progress, but also being able to fund retirement in a way that I've never been able to do as an academic who has a doctoral degree to pay off and all of that stuff. And so I've been able to dramatically change my financial life in the last 2 years, to just be able to support my family during really a very expensive time to be alive and have a family. I have to say, very expensive time. I mean, the average kid costs you $500,000 before they're 18. And I'll just say that it's an expensive time to have a family. So it's really been incredible and life transforming for me and my kids, and just the weight off my shoulders of like when there's a surprise bill, for kids, the kids' healthcare or a car bill can come in, and it's like, it's not this, oh my God, now the family's in crisis type moment. And to be able to like, yeah, we'll handle that. I can handle that. I got a way to handle that. And that being able, I've never lived like that my entire life, where it's like, I can handle some of these surprise things. Everyone's got those surprise bills. So being able to really envision a whole new life for me and my kids, a whole new, retirement, at some point it was almost like, I'll work forever was kind of the plan, right? It's like, I don't have to work forever unless I want to. So that is a great place to be able to plan in ways envision my life in ways I never could before. So financially, it's been incredible. It's not like, it's not like all of a sudden I'm living in a mansion and traveling 5-star, everywhere I go. But it is that weight of, oh my God, what's, the next bill, that has definitely been lifted. So that piece has been really just life transforming, because as an educator and a therapist, neither are really high paying professions, believe it or not. And people think you make a lot of money writing books. I'm like, so it has been just incredible to finally have something like that financially in my life. And then just in terms of the other result is twofold. One is it really does feel good when your students are like, oh my God, this is life transforming. This is incredible. I do. So my master course, Therapy That Works, a 45-hour course, it's in a very expensive $2,000 program. It's 7 modules. And I have had more than one person tell me the first module, which is get yourself together as a therapist. It's like just get yourself to set your goals and achieve them and take care of you. I've had multiple people tell me that one module they would pay $2,000 for, because it is so life transforming for them, their children. And then to have people say like, oh my God, like my imposter syndrome is gone, and this is finally, it all makes sense. All these years I've been looking for some way to make sense of the information in this field, and this would just make so much sense and so incredible. That is really a great feeling, because you feel like, I have helped people's kids with chronic illnesses get, finally to get a diagnosis and treatment. I have had people save their marriages through my courses. And that's not, the courses teach you how to do therapy. So just hearing all of how you touch people's lives. And the other thing, though, that has really been incredible, I still can't explain this one, the community that we have created is such a safe place. And especially in today's polarized world, to just have a place where you can come and talk freely, feel safe to do that. Therapists never feel that, because our, clients can't hear things. And at work, there's still a ton of politics, in every environment. Let me just tell you, therapists, they're sensitive people. It's always easy to offend them. And, and to have a safe place to bounce that off of, and the support we see. And it's a very diverse group of folks. Some are brand new in their graduate programs. Some are, seasoned. We have folks from all over the world. I have a cohort from Kenya that likes to join us. And it's just really been this incredible worldwide space where people come together, and I call it a policy of kindness. Everyone signs off. Kindness is our policy. And it's just really been an incredible space to just meet people, feel supported, feel connected. And oftentimes some of the programs are just have a total global community. It's really beautiful.
Okay, so Diane, what kind of obstacles, either inner obstacles or outer obstacles, could have stopped you from getting that first course done and getting these courses done and out into the world?
Well, there are always 1,001. I mean, certainly saying I'm too busy. I mean, I have a fair right to claim that, and I certainly am a busy person. Of course, the paradox often is that super busy people, end up being able to handle more just because they get so good at being organized. So, I mean, certainly time was a challenge, and it still is, and it's certainly, but the time challenge was there, and I just made it a priority, moved things around, talked with my family, and we worked together to make this happen. In terms of other obstacles, well, I think there's just a lot of skills to learn in doing all of this. And I think I am a very persistent person. And so I don't let, this didn't work right or whatever. I don't let that get me down. I keep, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. I'll figure it out one way or another. So I think that persistence. Another thing, I think that has been real important is when I'm a teacher person, I'm pretty transparent with my students about what's going on. I never overpromised. I kept all my promises that I made. The one course that's that was a membership I tried, it was not financially as successful as I wanted it to be. And I didn't cancel the class because of it. I stayed true. And I told my students at one point, I will finish the year commitment, because they had all, a year was the longest someone had been, got the course for. And I said, at the end of the year, it's going to change into evergreen courses, and we meet once a month. So I had integrity as I went through it, and I really kept my promises, because the truth is not everything I did was this huge financial, success. And so if I promised something, though, I always followed through on it. And, I have had fears. I'm like, oh my God, what if I don't wake up one Sunday morning to teach? A lot of my classes are on Sunday mornings. Got to have those alarms on. And so knock on wood, that, has not been the issue. But so having integrity and knowing it is all on you. You do online courses, you have to make it happen. There's no excuses, and you just show up, come hell or high water, you show up. And, I think some of that comes down to knowing how much you can handle in terms of a workload, and accurately predicting that is important. So I think those are some of the obstacles, and just, what helped overcome them.
It's so interesting you talking about, showing up come hell or high water, because there has to be an element of trust. Your students have to be able to trust you because they're going to give you a big chunk of money and they're not in your town. They're not in your city. They don't know where you live. They don't have your phone number. And so there is a lot of trust that is involved in the whole transaction of online courses, isn't there?
Yes, there really is. There really is. And I think my students know that, I will show up. I will always do my half, and I am going to more than deliver on what I said. They usually get always more than they ask for. I try to make it feel like they left with a great deal.
So what are you looking forward to now that you have done this 2.5 years of creating all these courses?
So I am looking forward to being able to, now I have a level 1 and a level 2 program, and I'm looking to see that kind of really solidify in. I'm kind of going to get a rhythm, an annual rhythm for the courses that I have, and hopefully solidifying. It's like I've done all of this growth, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to really like solidify it into a much more sustainable rhythm that gives me most of my weekends back and is able to then kind of generate the money that's really potential, in this field, and the lifestyle and the freedom and the flexibility, so that I can decide, where I'm going to work, when I want to work, how I want to work. I mean, I would love to get to a place where that's really, and to be able to provide comfortably for my family. And so that's kind of really where I'm hoping to be able to create that, and in a way that feels very stable and I can trust it. So that is what I am looking forward to. And at some point, the goal really is to own at least a piece of property in Hawaii, and hopefully to spend most of my days there, moving forward in life. That is the ultimate goal.
What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I mean, oh my God, I did it. I created an institute. Mine is called an institute. I'm in a therapeutic world, so I created an institute, which is kind of mind blowing. I have learned these incredible skills. Like I just did a book launch I co-edited a book with a very famous therapist, Harleen Anderson. And we wanted to do a free international symposium for therapists all over the world. And it was incredible, simultaneously translated in Chinese and Spanish. And it was just this amazing event that pulled the world together. And I have done multiple of these events where we literally bring the world together. They're free, and I feel like I can, I've had therapists email me from all over the world. We're like, wow, I don't even know how they do therapy in that part of the world, right? It's so feeling like I literally make a worldwide contribution is certainly been one of the biggest rewards. And then being able in my own life to just have some of that stress reduced about how am I going to make it next month financially, how am I going to take care of my kids and their education, and there's my retirement, and all of that stuff, and being able to have all of this financial flexibility at the very least. Like I said, I'm not living in a mansion, driving race cars, and sitting on a yacht, but I have significantly shifted my financial reality in ways that would have never been possible otherwise. So it just really opened just a lot of positive doors in my life. That's just been incredible.
And so, Diane, what are some things that you're grateful for?
Well, I'm grateful for you, obviously, and been very grateful for just all of your guidance and support and positive energy, and guiding, me in a very streamlined way. I mean, I think, that is what I find so useful about your courses, is that you really like get to the real practical stuff in a very simple way. Your mentoring has been like incredible, boiling things down and just telling me how to do it, giving me a plan, that we don't just sit there floating around in the atmosphere, which is I'm capable of, but then, this type of work, action needs to happen. And I've really been grateful for your just focus on taking really practical actions and being honest. I mean, that's another thing I've been really thankful for with you, is that when things work or don't work, we sit down, we look at what went right, what went wrong, and not in any way that's ever blaming or shaming. type of thing. And so I think that's also been really, really great. And, I've enjoyed the support of the educational communities. I've been a part of a couple of them that you put together. So that has been great. Just to even know that there are other people on kind of a similar journey to myself. So yeah, and just obviously how, being able to teach online has just opened up so many more opportunities and freedoms and abundance in my life.
Well, Diane, is there anything else you want to say that we didn't cover?
No, I just, anyone who's interested in teaching online courses, it really is an incredible experience. And there is a lot of work. It's not like there's not work. And I think, Natalie's program is just so incredible about breaking it down step by step, making it simple enough. But the rewards really are like multiple levels. I mean, obviously the income potential, there are very few things like it for most of us. But just building community, the creativity, being able to create something that has so much meaning to people and transforms lives. It just really, it is really worth it taking the leap.